Most leaders know they need to build trust with their team, but here's where it gets tricky. What if it's not your team? At least not yet. What if you inherited the team? What if you're totally new to the leadership role? You've been hired into the company to lead that team, or promoted from another team to be a new member of this one. You don't know them yet. You don't know if they've been burned before. You've got a lot you need to do to build trust with a new team. And here's where most managers get it wrong. They try to fast track the process. They start all sorts of team building exercises. They host a lot of lunches. They schedule lots and lots of one-on-ones. And these are great gestures, but they don't really get the trust loop going. Trust isn't given and trust isn't earned. Trust is reciprocated. And the new leaders that understand how to keep that trust loop turning in a positive direction, they're the ones that build sustainable trust with their new team. If you're new to the channel, my name is David Burkus, and I study high-performing teams and work with leaders to build their best team ever. If that sounds like something you need as a leader, then subscribe to the channel down below, or better yet, join our email newsletter community, link in the video description below. All right, let's get into it. Trust doesn't build in a straight line. It moves in a loop. We call it the trust loop. You build an initial level of trust through commonalities, some of those lunches and one-on-ones, and that encourages your people to take a leap of faith, to take an interpersonal risk like sharing a new idea or giving you a piece of candid feedback. And if they feel that leap is met with respect, you heard them, you listened to them, you found their contribution valuable, then they trust you far more than any exercise ever could. And that encourages them to take a bigger leap. That encourages you to meet them with more respect, and on the loop goes, building momentum and trust with every turn. So how do you show trust early, especially with a team that you didn't pick? You start small. Signal vulnerability. You don't pretend you have all the answers. You're new. Everybody knows you don't have all the answers. So be real. Say things like, I'm still learning how this team works, and then listen to them telling you how the team works. What that creates, that moment of vulnerability, that creates empathy in the team. And empathy is the gateway to trust. When you step into a leadership role, there's a lot of people watching, wondering, who is this person? What are they about to change? And the idea behind being vulnerable is admit first, I don't have all the answers. I don't know what to change. I'm still learning how this team works. Now, eventually, you're gonna know what needs to change. You were brought in to be part of a change, after all, a change from the previous leader. And when that moment happens, make sure that you're sharing as much intel with the team as you can, that you're trusting them to hear it straight from you, that you're pulling back the curtain a bit and showing how this change fits into the larger organizational goals so people can see themselves in that. Help them feel like insiders, not outsiders just waiting for the next announcement to drop. So when you come back from a manager's meeting, this sounds like, hey, I just got done with this strategy session and here's a few things I learned that might be interesting to you and to the rest of the team. Or this isn't finalized yet, but I wanted to give you some early visibility so we can start thinking about how we as a team fit into this. And all of this is under the umbrella of, hey, look, I'm new here, but I want to make sure communication stays a two-way street. So I'm going to keep you in the loop of what I'm hearing from outside of this team, and I want you to keep me in the loop on what's going on inside it. Transparency is like a secret weapon. It builds belonging. It says, I trust you with this, and sends the message that they can trust you as well. That's how you stop being the new boss and start being their leader. Here's what happens next. If your team feels safe, if they trust you, they take the leap. And that leap, it doesn't always come with a grand announcement. It's not always easy to spot. It's subtle, but it's always significant. It's gonna look like that quiet person sharing a new idea. It's gonna look like someone giving you a candid piece of feedback on how your performance is or how the team's been doing. Or maybe, brace yourself, it's gonna sound like somebody sharing a frustration they've been sitting on forever. Maybe it's about how the team communicates. Maybe it's about their own workload. Maybe it's about the person you just replaced. And when that moment happens, congratulations, you've entered the unofficial listening tour. And look, it's not always comfortable to receive these. I mean, nobody actually likes getting constructive criticism, even if they know it's gonna make them better. But these moments, these leaps, they're not attacks, they're tests. The team is testing whether or not those early signals of trust actually hold up under pressure. They're testing to see if you just get defensive. They're testing to see if Maybe you respond the way their old boss did. They're testing whether or not they truly can take the leap and if you're going to respect their contribution. Listen, ask questions, clarify. And when they're finally done, say something like, I appreciate you being honest with me. This helps me lead better. The worst thing you can do here is defend your actions and try and say, well, this is the way I do it. This is how I've always done it as a leader, etc. Yeah, you've got a lot of credentials and past history maybe as a leader before this team, but the team hasn't seen any of that. And if you try and defend yourself using it, it's just gonna fall on deaf ears. The thing to do whenever anybody does any of these leaps is to start with thank you, and then get into a conversation around their idea, the merits of their idea, what you're learning from their idea. You don't have to agree with them in the end, but you can't send them any signals that suggest you're dismissing their contribution. Now, active listening is just one way that you can respond to a leap with respect, but there are a lot of ways in the day-to-day that you can consistently show the team that you respect them and so they can trust you more. Share credit. Not just for the big wins, but for progress, for effort, for those little things. A team that sees that their manager notices is a team that shows up more often. Treat disagreements as collaboration. Conflict isn't a sign that a team is dysfunctional. Task-focused conflict can be a sign that a team is truly creative, that it's innovative. Disagreements are how we're gonna find some of our best ideas. And part of your job as a leader is to facilitate that, to make sure it stays task-focused, but it's not to shut all conflict down. Recognize when your team is making the right fight and let them fight with you every once in a while too. And one more thing, amplify unheard voices. When those quiet people on the team, maybe people who've been historically quiet, even under the last leader, finally do share, make sure they know they're heard and make sure their message is even amplified to the rest of the team. Without open communication on a team, trust doesn't happen, hierarchy happens, power games happen, politics happen. You don't want any of that. You want everyone on the team to know that when they have an idea, when they have a contribution, it's going to be heard, listened to, respected, and considered by the entire team. Look, inheriting a team is a tough spot. You're walking into a culture, functional or dysfunctional, that you weren't a part of shaping, and you're going to probably try and change it a bit. You don't have the full story, maybe a while before you get the full story. The key to building trust isn't to walk in and try and be liked. The key is to be vulnerable, to encourage people to take the leap, and to match that leap with respect. That's how the trust loop works. That's how you get trust going. If you want to know more about how this trust loop works, we did an entire deep dive in this video here, so check that out. Because at the end of the day, you don't want a compliant team, you want a committed team, and commitment starts with trust.